In this video, I'm going to show you 3 interesting, unique ways that you can use your monopod rather than just using it as a monopod. Let's get right into it. So of course you can use your monopod as a regular monopod. I mean, that's obviously what it's designed for. That's what most people use them for. But if you want to get more bang for your buck out of your monopod and you just want to get some more uses out of it, but you find it just sitting in the background or sitting in your camera bag and just not being used much, I hope this inspires you. Hopefully it kind of brings your monopod back to life. And so for all these tips and all these uses, I'm going to be using my iFootage Cobra 2 monopod. This is like the Rolls Royce of monopods. I mean, this thing just ticks all the boxes. It has pretty much every feature that you'd want a monopod to have. And unlike most monopods, it even has a mini tripod on the bottom, so you can kind of use this in a way as a tripod too. You can take your hands off it, it'll still stand up straight, and you can take off that mini tripod and just attach it right to your camera and use it as a really strong mini tripod too, which I actually have a video about the mini tripod from iFootage. I'll link it down below if you want to check it out. It's an awesome tripod if you're looking for something really small. But that's not what this video is about, so let's get into the 3 interesting uses for your monopod. Alright, so number 1, the first thing, this is kind of a little Frankenstein build that I put together because, you know, I like getting overhead shots or top-down shots, but I really don't have a good rig to do that with. And so I decided just to build my own. And so basically what you're gonna need for this is a tripod, preferably a heavy duty or a bigger tripod, a monopod of course, and then a couple of these like small rig clamps, they're like super clamps with 1/4" threads on them. So I essentially got my iFootage tripod, and it has this quick release plate with 2 different screws. It has a 3/8 and then a 1/4" screw on it. Now you're gonna want a tripod plate or a tripod with 2 mounting screws. It doesn't matter if they're 3/8 or both 1/4 or one of each, just like mine is. But you're gonna want 2 of them to get the best structural integrity out of this because you want this to be as strong as possible. So I went and threaded 2 of those small rig super clamps onto each of those threads on that quick release plate. And then what I did is just kind of brought in my monopod, extended the bottom section of it out, you know, the smallest section, and then I just clamped it into those 2 clamps really tight, and then finished tightening the bolts and make sure everything's nice and tight and solid. And then I put the quick release plate, clamped it on the tripod, you know, like it normally should be, and then you got this big extended arm attached to your tripod. And so you can use this as pretty much like a jib, you know, for getting like kind of like big moving, swinging shots. You can extend the monopod out and get really far away shots and, you know, pan it or tilt it or anything like that. And you can also use this as an overhead rig by pretty much, you know, extending your tripod up and right over your table, right over your surface or the floor or whatever you want to get an overhead shot of. Now you definitely need some sort of weight on the other end of your tripod to counteract that long, really heavy arm pushing forward so it doesn't just tip forward all the time. Also, I want to warn you that this isn't the safest thing. I'm not going to be responsible for it if you break anything doing this. Do this at your own risk. It's obviously not what any of this stuff is intended for. But if you want to get an overhead rig and you have a tripod, you have a monopod, you know, you have some super clamps handy, this is just a really fun thing to do and you can get some really creative shots with this. Alright, so I'm working on getting some B-roll for one of my videos. And so I have my whole overhead set up here to get this type of B-roll. So essentially what I did is, so I grabbed my Gazelle TC9 tripod from iFootage with the Komodo K7 video head. I actually have my GH3 just hanging from this to kind of support it a little bit because otherwise it was so front heavy that it really just tried to sag down and pull itself down, even with that tightened up. So that's just kind of like a counterweight to help balance it out. And that's kind of the whole setup right there. Ignore all my mess going on here. Alright, so the next creative way that you can use your monopod is actually something that I talked about in a previous video, which I'm going to link down below. But you can actually use your monopod as sort of like a stabilizer Steadicam type of thing to get really smooth, stable footage without cashing out on like a gimbal or an actual Steadicam, because those things can get crazy expensive. And if you already have a monopod, this is definitely worth a try just to get some smoother footage rather than just holding your camera handheld. Alright, let me show you. Alright, so I took the whole overhead rig apart and now I just got my camera on the iFootage Cobra 2 monopod. And so for this stabilization technique, you literally just need a monopod and your camera. It's really that simple. So all you have to do is you put your camera on top of the monopod and you pick up the monopod right around the balance point, kind of towards the camera, with just like 2 fingers, like your index finger and your thumb, or, you know, maybe a few fingers, just so you're not grabbing on really tight. And what this does when you walk around or pan around is it pretty much smooths the footage out a bunch because it kind of balances the camera right around there, and it really, like I said, acts as just like a Steadicam basically. so the weight of the bottom of the monopod is going to kind of smooth everything out, keep everything level. But since your hands aren't just on the camera, and since there's a lot more weight on everything, it's really going to smooth out the footage a lot more than holding your camera handheld. Now this isn't going to replace a gimbal. This isn't going to make it like mega smooth, you know, you can like run with the camera, it'll be perfectly smooth. It's not gonna do anything like that. But if you're recording a video, you know, you don't have the budget for a gimbal, or you forgot to bring it with you, or you just have your monopod with you and you want to get a little more stable footage, this is just an awesome technique, and it costs no money if you have a monopod already. Now, like I said, I made a video going a lot more in depth about this, and I'll link it down below if you want to check it out. But this is just an awesome, really simple technique. It takes a little bit to learn and kind of to perfect, you know, getting that balance point perfect. But just like anything, it takes time to learn, and once you do learn it, you can get some awesome stable footage with this. But anyways, that's nice and simple, and that's a monopod tip number 2. So the third thing you can use your monopod for is, of course, a boom pole for a microphone. So monopods pretty much work perfect for this because you can extend it out. It's just a single rod with a mounting thread on the top. So right here I have my Rode Video Micro attached to it, wirelessly transmitting audio to the camera. So I'm using this mic for this recording right now. And so this right here would be super useful if you want to record a short film, or if you want to record YouTube videos, or even some like paid advertising for a company. Really any sort of videos where you want to get good audio, and you can get maybe a friend or an assistant to hold this boom pole for you and get the microphone as close as possible to the subject or to the person speaking or the actor or whatever you're doing. This will get you much better audio than putting the microphone on your camera or anywhere else that's farther away, because with this boom pole, it allows you to really boom up the mic, get it right outside of the shot without getting into the frame at all, but as close as possible to your actor or your actress or your subject. So boom poles can be really underrated, but in pretty much any sort of documentary or filmmaking, movies and stuff like that, they're using boom poles just to get the best, cleanest audio possible. Now, of course, the downside to this is you're gonna need a second person to hold the boom pole, because you can't really do that, you know, while manning the camera, while pulling focus, you know, checking framing and all the stuff like that. But what you can do is, if you're doing YouTube videos or recording yourself, you can pretty much combine this with that jib / overhead rig that I just showed a couple minutes ago and get really good audio doing that. So you can kind of combine those to get good audio and not have to actually hold it yourself, or, you know, find someone to hold it for you. But either way, this is monopod tip number 3. And so there we go. That wraps up the 3 really unique, interesting ways that you can use your monopod, featuring the iFootage Cobra 2 monopod. I'm going to leave a link to the iFootage monopod in the description if you want to check it out. iFootage is an awesome company. They create amazing products, so feel free to check out that down in the description. And feel free to go down, subscribe, and check out my other videos. I make lots of videos about budget camera gear, you know, budget cameras, budget lenses, really anything of that nature. So if you're interested in that type of stuff, definitely hit the subscribe button and check out my other videos. And yeah, that wraps it up. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.